Today on the Brand Aid podcast.
If you can't change the entire culture, you can change the climate of where you are. You can change, if you're a manager, you can change your piece. You can make it so that's the environment for greatness, as opposed to maybe the whole company isn't.
Welcome to Brand Aid, where we answer the question, what does it take to launch your own brand revolution, create evolution, and who are the people that help you foster connection, community, contribution, and currency for a brand built to last. You will also meet brands changing the world and the lives of those they serve. Here's your host, Cheryl Hodgson.
We've all heard the expression breaking through the glass ceiling. Well, my guest today has a slightly different take. That is, walking on the glass floor. Judy Hoberman is an award-winning international speaker, best-selling author, trainer, and leading authority on women in leadership. With over 3 decades in business, Judy combines wisdom and humor with her behavior-shaping insights, impacting audiences of 10,000, as well as small groups and individuals through her one-on-one executive coaching and mentoring. Men and women do lead, sell, manage, and recruit differently, and Judy is a master at improving performance and company culture, empowering both genders to better support each other's successes in more productive ways.
Hi, everyone. This is Cheryl Hodgson. Welcome to the Brand Aid podcast. I'm here with my special guest today. I'd like to welcome Judy Hoberman to the Brand Aid podcast. Judy is a radio show host. She's also the author of the best-selling book, Walking on the Glass Floor, and Selling in a Skirt. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm so excited to be here. I couldn't wait for today to get here.
Well, that makes me feel really great because I actually feel that way about every day.
I hear you.
Every day of good health and being present is a great gift, is the way I look at it, especially in today's world. So, Judy, tell me, how did you come up with the notion of selling in a skirt? Because we're women, right?
Well, that's part of it, but I come from a world of all men. I mean, I was in insurance for decades, and I was the only female in probably most of my life. And so when I started out to build my own business, what I decided was, what would I have wanted if I was starting all over? And what do I know about? And I know about being a woman, and I know about sales and leadership. So I decided that I would become the person that I needed. So I coach and I train and I speak. And so I thought selling in a skirt has a good ring to it and people remember it. So when you think about branding, it was something that people remember. People have heard me speak 10 years ago and they say, oh, you're selling in a skirt, aren't you? So it was something that I wanted to make sure people would recognize and remember, because I didn't care if they didn't know my name, just, branding purposes.
Well, since the name of my show is Brand Aid, and I don't always talk about that part of it, now that you mention it, it is a great name from a trademark perspective because of exactly what you said. And it's one of the things I struggle with coaching with clients all the time is they want to describe what they do as opposed to either making it something distinctive or suggestive. And what is great about yours is it's what we call a suggestive mark, which is one of the hardest ones of all to find. But when you find a good one, it's as good as it gets because it tells the listener or your audience or your prospective customer, I'd like to know more, but it doesn't totally tell you what it is. So that's why it's great. So I compliment you on good trademark selection. So how did you move from corporate America into transitioning into your coaching business?
I was recruited into a corporate position because I was in insurance. And what they wanted me to do was to develop all the training, the sales training, the product training, a university and all of that, and which I loved. I loved it. And I loved being with the field because they're my people. However, the culture of the company was not exactly right for me. And so when I realized that I was not going to be able to do the things I needed to do or make myself feel like I wasn't compromising everything that I know and love, I decided to jump ship, which is a big step to take when you're not 20 years old and, you know, you're just like jumping out the window without a parachute.
Yeah.
But I knew I needed to do that. So when I did that, there really wasn't a transition for me. It was, okay, today I'm here and tomorrow I'm not. So what do I do next? And so I just started speaking in places, and I spoke everywhere so people would at least get to know who I was, because I'm living in a place that I didn't know anyone. The only people I knew were the people I just resigned from. So that's not a network. So I had to do what I tell people to do when I do sales training, go out and network and prospect. And that was difficult, but it was good.
Well, but looking back, you can say it was worthwhile, right? I mean,
Without
those
question.
those struggles we went through, especially, and I want to go back to a couple of things you've already said that we haven't really focused on yet. But the first was, being the only woman in a room, basically starting out in your career. I certainly experienced a lot of that as an attorney in my youth. Not so much anymore, because there's many women attorneys, but when I started, there wasn't. So how did that impact your ability to move forward in sales, or did it?
Sometimes you hear things that people say about you when you really shouldn't hear what they say about you, but you do anyway. And I used to hear them say, she'll never make it. She's never going to make it because she's a girl. That's how they would call me. She's a girl. She asks too many questions. She takes up people's time. Everybody has to be her friend, blah, 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 blah. But we can say that we had one when she doesn't make it. And when I heard that, I'm from New York originally. To me, that was like challenge. And so I was also, right? I was also a single mom, and I had to protect my children. So I had to get it in my head how this was going to work for me. I had to develop my own playbook. But when I realized that my job was to protect my children, I also realized that if I could protect my family, why couldn't I protect other families? Because it was insurance. And so when I realized that and I changed my mindset, the flip of the switch, that changed everything. And so all of these men that didn't really want me there, they were watching my numbers go up, 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 up. And finally they would say to me, how are you doing this? How do you have so many clients? Why is everybody staying on the books? How come they call you for all the things? Blah, 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 blah. And for me, it was relationships. And I started doing training for them. And I would train differently. And all of a sudden, you would see these people that were struggling or very transactional becoming very relational. And that was really how I had to do it for myself. It happened to overflow to everybody else.
Well, and that's wonderful, because I know, going back to just from a pure sales perspective, something I read many years ago was an article that when women were really still struggling to, get a toehold in corporate America in many ways, there was always, what are the most equal opportunity positions for women? And that was sales, because it's not dependent. Your compensation is not typically dependent on a boss giving you a raise or someone giving you an opportunity. It's based on your own performance. So, it's what you're saying about your insurance sales. Because you were successful in developing loyal clients and a client base, then your performance spoke for itself.
Right. And I think one of the big things on that is that after 90 days, the first 30 days is like mass chaos because nobody knows what anybody's doing. But after 90 days, I was 100% referral based. And so I never had to be given yellow pages anymore. I was referrals. I mean, everybody gave me referrals. Even people I didn't sell would give me referrals because they just wanted to be around me because I made it fun for them. Not that, I didn't juggle balls or anything, but I made it easy. I explained everything. I never said anything that wasn't 100% true because it was my reputation. And so when you don't have to worry about, cold calling all the time and you have referrals, it's a very different ballgame. And I would teach people how to do that. And those that listened did really well. Those that didn't struggled. And a lot of times they came back after and said, okay, now I'll listen. So,
well, I think it's very valuable input because it doesn't matter what profession you're in, I don't think, and it certainly applies in mine. I'm looking back over the last 25 years, I've spent hundreds of hours in networking groups and networking organizations. And while I've met some really wonderful people, the bottom line is even today, I look at my my client base, and it comes from my existing clients. It's totally referral. I can market all day long. I can do all the digital marketing. I can do everything supposedly correct. But then at the end of the day, when I have another client who calls me and says, hey, I've given your name to so-and-so, or the client reaches out and says, somebody told me I had to call you, they're pre-sold, there's nothing, very little sales or marketing involved. In other
Right.
words, they're pre-cleared, pre-screened, and disposed to work with me already. And that recommendation referral part of it is really huge for your business. And I
And
think
you have to earn that though. You have to earn it. It's not like they're going to walk in one day and somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to give you referrals." I mean, you have to do something for them, because it's not about you, it's about them. And when you put it that way, all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, so she listened to me, she answered my questions, so on and so on. I think that she has earned the right for me to give my best friend or my sister or my cousin."
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's what it really comes down to, is every day, trying to focus on being present with the client or the prospect or the person I'm working with, to really hear what it is they need and want, and try to help them achieve that. Enough said. So when you were one of the things that does fascinate me in talking about brands and brand aid, I have my few words are connection, community, contribution, and currency, which I threw up today. I have some different virtual backgrounds, but because I know of your background in corporate culture and company culture, not so much corporate, but business culture, I'd love to dive into that a little bit more in terms of how you see that really impacts the company's ability to present its product and services to the public and have them be embraced. Because it seems to me that company culture can either be majorly good or it can be toxic. And to me, it's definitely part of branding.
Yeah, but I think it's more than brand. I think branding starts all of that, because that's what people are attracted to when they come into a company. But when the person at the very top either doesn't share what the culture is, or doesn't put out what the culture is, or puts it on a wall and that's the last place you see it, there's no way that the culture can survive or thrive or anything. So when I was outside looking in, the culture was amazing. It was phenomenal. It was everything that you'd want a culture to be, because it was very inviting and everybody loved you and they wanted to make sure that you did your best and they would reward you for it. Because you can make a lot of money in insurance as a producer, as an agent, as a manager. When I went inside, you hear what it's really about. They hated the people in the field. Every one of us, they hated us because we made too much money and they didn't. So all of a sudden you're feeling the resentment. And when you feel that and nobody at the top changes that, this is what it is. Company culture is a very tricky thing, because it's the DNA of the company. And sometimes the person at the top might want to change it, but doesn't think he could do it by himself. And nobody in the company feels that they could do it by themselves. And so nothing changes. So for me, I always say that whatever the culture is, you need to share it first, and then you have to live it, because it's words on a wall otherwise. And so there's a lot of companies that have great cultures, and you walk in and you can feel it. You just want to be a part of it. And if you can't change the entire culture, you can change the climate of where you are. You can change, if you're a manager, you can change your piece. You can make it so that's the environment for greatness, as opposed to maybe the whole company isn't.
Well, what does it take to create a good company culture based on what you saw, good and bad?
Oh, it's about people. It's about your people. I always say that no matter what part of business you are in, whether you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, or corporate, you have to know your people. And your people are not just the people you want to sell to. They're the people around you. They're your peers. They're the people you look up to, the people that are below you, whatever it is. You have to know your people. You have to know what they need, what they want, and how do you allow that to happen and still have a profitable business. I'm not saying that when you come into a company, they should pay all your bills and they should wine and dine you. That's ridiculous. You still have to work. But when there's something there that you're able to understand and you share that, it's a very different, well, I walk into companies and I could feel the culture. I can feel, sometimes I just like shake and I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to live here.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the vivid vision and for a company. And, even in a smaller business, that if you create that real vivid vision for what the company is about and where it's going and the mission and where you're headed and what you intend to accomplish, and that everybody is brought into understanding that vision, not just the employees, but stakeholders, then there creates more of an opportunity for collaborative, we're all moving in the same direction attitude.
But that takes knowing your people. That's the whole thing. If you don't know who you're, and everybody has avatars. And one of my avatars is, I call him Oblivious Bob. And the reason it's Oblivious Bob is because we always talk about having more women in leadership. Well, Oblivious Bob looks at this room of people, and there are very qualified women, and he always looks over them. And he takes Mike and Steve and Bob and whatever. And so one of the things about culture is, if you don't know your people, how do you promote them? And a lot of times Oblivious Bob will say, I didn't even know she wanted that promotion, or I didn't even know she was qualified, because you don't know your people. And so that's part of it. You have to know your people so you can draw that vivid, vision. And you can also make it so being curious and being creative is encouraged, as opposed to, this is the way we've always done it. And that's hard. That's really hard.
So how do you support in your business? I mean, I know you have the books and the radio show and all that's phenomenal. But I mean, in terms of your coaching business, do you work with companies and brands to help them with that kind of culture component?
I do work with companies, and I do work with organizations, and I do work with individuals. And we don't necessarily talk about the brand necessarily. We talk about the culture. But
that's what I meant, the culture, yeah.
Yeah, we also talk about the challenges that they're facing, because in a lot of companies, it's the same thing over and over again. They need more sales, okay? But it's not really about the sales. It's about everything else. So when you can fix all these other pieces, your sales naturally go up, and then they say, oh my God, you're the best sales trainer ever. Because you have, right? Because you have to break things down into the pieces that really work, and that takes asking questions and really listening to what they're saying. And you can ask a million questions, and if you don't listen, it doesn't do anything. But I'm a really good listener, and I write everything down, and I write it down in their words. I mean, I'm very consistent when whatever appointments I'm going on, I always say, may I take notes? If they say no, I wouldn't take notes, but nobody really says no. But I write things down, and I listen for those little things that you would miss. And so when I'm able to go back and say, okay, so when you said this, tell me what that looks like. And that's where the magic happens, because when you can create that environment where they tell you things that they might not have told anybody else, it's everything changes, and you can see the change. You can watch it. You can see how they're growing, and you can see how they're making changes and bringing value, and they're more confident about who they are.
Well, I think that's such a profound lesson that applies in all parts of life, because I mean, I've been guilty of it as well. One of the biggest challenges in life is as human beings, we tend to be, while somebody else is talking, thinking about what our response is going to be, or the next thing that's in our head, as opposed to actually being present and hearing what the person is saying. And then having that person feel acknowledged, seen, and heard, and even understood that's unusual in today's world, for someone to take that moment with you.
It is. And it's interesting that, when I post every single day on social media, and today I happen to post about being present, because I do believe that is the greatest gift you can give someone. And when you're talking to somebody, whether it's virtual or face to face, and they're constantly looking at their watch because they have all these messages coming through, I find it very rude. I do. Because
I agree with you.
And sometimes I'll say, so is that really important? Is that more important than this conversation we were having? Because we were right in the middle of it. And I do. I ask them, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then they're still doing it. So you have to be able to get that kind of acknowledgement. You have to be able to make the expectation and say, okay, so we're going to turn our phones off. We're going to turn our watches off. We're going to do whatever, because this is what's important, is right here. There's a story that I always tell it, because I have no idea where. I'm pretty sure it was somewhere on the internet, but there was a CEO that was doing an interview, and the interview was with a young man, and the CEO's cell phone was ringing on his desk, and he just pushed it aside. And the young man stopped what he was saying, and he said, it's probably important because it keeps ringing. And the CEO said to him, there's no one more important than you. Wouldn't you want to work for that company?
Yes,
I would be like, pick me. Now, everybody says, well, why didn't he turn the phone off? I don't know. But the point is that he made it a point of saying there's no one more important than you. We're here now. That's not important. That's just a phone. And so there's part of your culture. You already know you're coming in, and the person at the very top is excited to have you there.
And, it makes me think of something I studied years ago in a course in religious about Judaism. And it was the Martin Buber, the famous Jewish scholar, who wrote about what he called the I thou moment. And that when you are with another human being, you have that opportunity to create that spiritual connection, not religious, but the I thou moment, to actually connect with another human being and creating that interaction, which can become very special. And I translate that to also, and I still struggle with this in my life, because we're all busy and we're managing 100 things, and you feel like, oh my God, I have this on my list and this on my list. It's like being present with the task at hand or the person at hand, so that you can be completely in what you're doing or saying or being. So
I love that. And you know what? I think everybody thinks that you multitask so many things and you're so effective. You're not effective at anything because you don't finish anything. You have to be present right here. Let's do this right now, right here. And so I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if it comes up for you, but where it comes up for me as a lawyer, when I have some big project that I know is going to take 5 to 20 hours of my time, meaning that it's going to take that long to complete it. And I go through these head trips still, like, okay, I feel like I'm procrastinating, but it's also the challenge becomes getting my mindset in a space where I'm sorry, it's okay if I ignore everything else that's going on in my life for the next 3 days, because otherwise I won't do a good work product. I won't achieve the result for my client that I want to. But that takes a lot of work, my own self-talk and my own self-discipline. It's every day is different.
Yeah. So I put autoresponders on everything when I have to do something like that. I put autoresponders on my phone. I put it on my computer, so nobody expects me to respond right away. And I turned everything else off so I don't hear any dings or pings or whatever. And then I am 100% focused. But it took a long time for me to do that, because I thought, well, somebody's going to need me. They need my opinion like this minute. No, they There's nobody.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of that thing that's really interesting, that when you finally do go on a vacation, have you ever had that experience? You go on a vacation and you think, oh my God, the sky's going to fall. Nobody's going to be able to live without me and my business. And then you go away and do nothing, and you come back and you have new referrals. It's like, I didn't even do anything, I've had that happen a number of times, and it's like, there's something interesting about letting go and trusting that, the cycle of life and energy will bring forth with a new thing. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether you are CEO of your own evolving brand, or you are serving as guide and mentor to other emerging brand owners, it's important to include legal protection for valuable brand assets. Brand names and logos, as well as other intellectual property, are often the most valuable business assets a company will ever own. Registered trademarks for product names, logos, and slogans are a potent weapon against domain hijackers, cyber squatters, as well as other later entrants into the market. In my international best-selling book, Registered Trademark, The Business Owner's Guide to Brand Protection, I reveal my simple 3-step process to help select, secure, and sustain protection for your own brand dream team. And I'll share how to bulletproof your business both online and off. As my special gift to our listeners, you can receive a free copy of my book. Simply go to brandaid.com/free gift to receive your copy today, and you'll pay only for shipping and handling.
So tell me, what have you found in the years that is different for women about selling in a skirt from men? Or is there a difference?
Well, yes, there's big differences. One of the biggest differences is how we communicate. Sales are sales. The process is the process, but it's how you deliver it that's different. Men, generally speaking, so I'm not saying everybody, but generally speaking, men are much more transactional. They want the facts, they want the figures, they want the bottom line, they want to do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Women are more relational. They want to have a relationship with everything and everybody that has to do with this piece of, a product, a service, whatever it is. And they have to make sure that whatever they choose is good for not only for them, but the people that it's going to be around. And so women take a lot longer in appointments, generally speaking, and men are a lot shorter, generally speaking. So a lot of people would prefer to do business with men because they're very decisive and women are not. The truth of the matter is women are having this relationship moment. And once you've earned their, know, like, and trust, they also refer people out 92% of the time. So for me, it goes back to the initial meeting. Are you more relational? Are you more transactional? Now, go the other way. There are women that are very transactional. There are men that are very relational. But it's generally speaking what the statistics show. And you can usually tell in the first minute or two what that, the person that you're selling to, who they are. If you spoke to a man and he said, okay, so give me the bottom line, give him bullet points. That's it, right? And that if you're very busy and somebody wants to give you all the stories, blah, 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 they don't want that. Okay, but that pretty quickly, and you take your lead from that person. And if they want more information, they're going to certainly say, okay, now you said something about X. Can you elaborate on that? Okay, there's your in again. So it's really communication, and it's the asking question, and it's the listening. And then most of all, it's the follow-up, because, women need to still feel connected. They want to make sure that their opinion really did matter. And when you just, go in, sell something and be done, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So it's really the communication that is a huge difference. But the process is the process. The bottom line is the sale. So how do you get there? That's my point. Women like me, I don't sell anything. I have a conversation. Don't sell anything. I just have this conversation, questions, answers, and we're done. Whereas most people don't.
Well, that's very helpful for me, because I think that in my own practice, and that's how we all relate, is based on our own lives, I think.
Right.
But, I've seen a transition in the last 10 years where I was very frustrated because I've been practicing for many years. And I finally came to a point where I realized, when I hit that wall and I had that sort of, not midlife crisis, but midlife, like, do I want to do this the rest of my life kind of thing? It really came down to, it wasn't what I was doing, it was who I was doing it for and with. And once I shifted my consciousness to focus on the relationships with my clients, and it doesn't mean I'm going to be best friends with every client. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But when someone approaches me, even today, and the first words that they write me in an email, when they've never met me and I have know nothing about them or their business, and they say, how much are you going to charge me? That's not a good prospect for me. Not because I'm begrudging the question, but because that person's looking for a transaction. They're not looking for a relationship. And I can't answer that question without some sort of relationship, because I don't know what you're doing or who you are. So how could I possibly tell you? I mean, do you need brain surgery or do you have an ingrown toenail? I don't know.
Right.
But once I got clear about what fulfills me and what motivates me, then it became much, much easier, because now I attract those clients who are comfortable with my style as well, I think.
Yeah, because you're each other's people and you get each other, and that's the beauty of it. But when you're trying so hard because you need the sale, and it never works out. It never works out. I remember people that would say to me, how much is it, for insurance, before we even got started? And I would say, I don't know. I need to ask some questions. Yeah, I know, but how much is it? Exactly. But how much is it? And then I would look at their business. And so let's say they were a landscaper. I'd say, okay, so how much is it to cut my lawn? They'd say, I don't know. I have to look at it. I'm like, okay, it's the same exact thing. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they get annoyed. But it didn't matter, because I couldn't be everything to everybody. So I had to make sure that my niche was also where I needed to be and where my people were. So it's the same thing. You learn about it, and then you're thinking, like, why didn't I know this all along?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think some of that comes with maturity, age, and experience. Because when you're starting out and you're young, and you were saying you want the sale, right? I want the client, right? Or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And then now it's like, well, if it's a fit, it's a fit. If it's not, it's not, and because I'm pretty busy and I can't be all things to everybody anyway. So, so so tell me, you have this wonderful thing that I'd love to hear more about, the round table, the round table that you started. Tell us about that.
So what I do is it's kind of like a mini version of a mastermind, but it's as in depth as a mastermind, but it's virtual. And that's why I'm saying it's a version of, it's virtual. And especially in, the way our lives are today, the way our world is today, we have to make sure that we offer things virtually. So what it is, it's like having your own personal board of directors. It's women, and it is for women. It's women that are all professional women. They don't have to be in the same industry. They can be, or they don't have to be, but they really have the same kind of experience that you have. They've all been in business more than 5 years, and they need someone that they can lean on, somebody that's going to hold them accountable, somebody that's going to give them best practices. And so we meet every other week. It's 90 minutes that we meet for, and you can't even imagine the stuff that comes out. Like, it's just so amazing. And I have one that's being done inside a company, and I have another one that's going to start inside a company. So it is women from the same company, so it's a little bit different. But the women that are outside companies, and they're from different backgrounds, and they are just letting their hair down and saying, okay, so here's what's happening, and I don't know what to do with it. And you have 8 to 10 other women that have been in that position or will be in that position. It's just really awesome. I am so excited about it. And every time we have another one of our sessions, I am like so grateful, because I'm not sure how this would have come about if it was in person, because some of the women are from different countries and some of the women are from different parts of the world. So you couldn't do it in person. So virtually is kind of a different source for me that I wasn't thinking of.
Well, and it's actually probably, I'm speculating, but I would imagine that cross-cultural aspect is actually quite wonderful to create a broader dynamic.
Everybody has a different background.
Yeah, I know I was in a mastermind with a client of mine, Joel Bauer, and it was largely with a group. It was called his protege group, and it was largely a group of entrepreneurs from Singapore. And at first I felt like I was the outlier, which I was, but by the end of the 6 months we were all together, it was quite wonderful, because I realized everybody's facing the same challenges. You may speak a different language, you may have different cultural backgrounds, but everyone who's trying to build a business is going through the same challenges and the same struggles, right? And need that support. So have you noticed, and I mean, because I love your slogan that's hanging behind you, women don't want to be, what is it? Women
want to be treated equally, not identically.
Yes, I love that, and so have you seen in your career how things have changed for women in business? Have you seen, and what are the challenges we still face, both within ourselves and with other people?
The same challenges we've been talking about for decades. And when we talk to companies, we always say we just have to move that needle. We have to keep moving that needle. And so we get to a point and then something else happens. Or we get to a point and they say, well, it's just so cute that you want to do an initiative. No, it's not an initiative. It is a business issue. It's not a women's issue. So what things haven't changed, what things have changed? I think that women are involved in more companies and occupations than they ever have been before. And that's huge, because women weren't, and I'm just going to use air quotes, allowed to do certain things many years ago. It's just they weren't invited in and nobody wanted them there. But now women are in different lifestyles. They're in different occupations. They've tried different things. They go to school for different courses. When I went to college, my mom said, you take English, you could be a teacher, you could be a nurse, you can be a secretary. No, you can't be a doctor because women aren't doctors. So, and that has changed. So the world has opened up for women. What hasn't opened up for women are more women in leadership positions. In many industries, a lot of women come in and a lot of women get here, but they don't get here. And so we're trying to fix that, to let people understand. We're not saying put women into a leadership position if she's not qualified. We're talking about qualified women. because there's plenty of qualified women.
Absolutely. It blows my mind. And one of the things that inspires me the most about both my clients and, some of the marketing and training I'm doing is mentoring younger people, men and women, but there are so many rock star young women that it just really inspires me, And I think the thing that I am seeing a huge shift in, and to some extent it's reflected in your roundtable, is that strong women are now comfortable being with each other, I think, and supporting each other in business, which, to be honest, when I started out as a lawyer was not the case. The men didn't want you there, and the few women that had come before were not very supportive. They were more threatened by somebody than.
Absolutely. And why? Why? Do you want their job? I mean, you don't. You want to create something for yourself, but they're all, but so there's a lot more women that are not threatened, which is also great. There's a lot more women supporting women, which is also great, but you still have some of the women that aren't, and that's okay.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's true of everybody, men and female, male and female. But it is nice to have that option now. And it's been wonderful for me because, I met you through somebody who I met through, Melinda Wittstocks, who has the podcast, that I just love, Wings of Success, which is all about women entrepreneurs and successful women mentoring and championing other women in business. And I just find that very inspiring to see that kind of conversation is happening publicly.
And by the way, we also have men that champion women, which is also great because we can't do it just by ourselves. We can't. There's a lot of men that can open doors. And once you open the door, that's what my saying is, women want to be treated equally, not identically. If you at least show us some opportunity that we may not be aware of, let us, we can get it by ourselves once we're in the door. Just open the door for us. Yeah. And so we don't want to be men. We don't want to take on male characteristics. We want to be who we are, but we want to be treated the same way. That's all.
Yeah, well, I tried that when I was a young lawyer many years ago. The norm was you had to go get the navy blue suit and look all buttoned up. And, that doesn't work anymore. It's not the way it goes. So not the way it flows. And having your own individuality, I think is just wonderful. So is there anything you'd love to share that I haven't had an opportunity to ask you?
I would say that, one of the things that I always talk about is that my mission is to help one woman a day. And when people say, well, why not 100? Why not 1,000? Why not 1,000,000? Because one woman exponentially are a lot of women. And so what, you were saying about mentoring, I would say that this is something that we should all take that on as a challenge, that we all should challenge ourselves to give back our brilliance, because there's so many people waiting, male and female, there's so many people waiting for that. And so if you have the time and the interest, that should be something that you give as a gift to yourself, because I guarantee you'll feel so much better when you watch the eyeballs of somebody like opening up so wide and then thanking you. Yes. And there's a statistic that says 65% of all women that have been mentored become mentors. Now, if that's not the best cycle to continue, I don't know what it is. So it's just, I always talk about giving back and being generous with your time. And I'm not saying you have to devote, 5 hours a day to somebody else, but, even if you did it once a month or once a quarter or something, just give somebody something that they can say, because of you, because of you, because of you.
Well, and I love that, because that's really, a lot of my mission with my book and the things I'm doing. But over the years, I probably have about an alumni group of about 20 or so lawyers who started out as either law clerks for me or young associates. And I like to jokingly say most of them have gone on to be bigger and better and more successful than me, which is great, but it's quite heartwarming to know that I played some small role in encouraging them. And it's just as you said, there's nothing more rewarding than to have one of those people come back. I had a young woman that worked for me about 5 or 6 years ago, and unfortunately, she had to move to Northern California because of a divorce situation, a custody issue with her child. But she ended up at Google for a while. And now she's at a very fine firm. And I'll never forget, she called me up right after she walked out of the interview. She said, I thought I was going to be in front of 3 lawyers. And I went in for the second interview, and there was like a panel of 9 attorneys firing questions at me. And she said, they offered me the job. And she said, all I could think about was, I could have never done this if I hadn't worked for you, if you hadn't taught me everything I know. And that just meant more to me than anything, to know that. So it's like, I really,
that.
I encourage that for all women. So if someone's interested in your roundtable or connecting with you for any type of consultation or training, how would they reach you?
So I am everywhere on social media under either Selling in a Skirt or Judy Hoberman. My website is sellinginaskirt.com. My email is judy@sellinginaskirt. You can reach me almost anywhere. I answer my own emails. Nobody else ever touches my emails because I find that, I like to know what's going on. Maybe it's a control thing. I don't know. But I just like to be able to respond myself. And the roundtable is sellinginaskirt/roundtable. So it's really
well, and we'll put all of this in the show notes. So for those of you who would like to connect with Judy and are listening verbally, auditorily, you can check out the show notes, and we'll make sure we'll get all that info for you so you can get to it. And I'd just love to hear any comments and thoughts any of you in the audience might have. So if you have a moment, head on over to Podopolo and share, which is our social media platform, and follow us there on Podopolo and comment and share and send us any questions that you might have. So Judy, it's been so great having you here on the podcast. And before we go, I would love to know, do you have some special gift you'd love to share with the audience?
I love to give gifts. It's my favorite thing. So I have a mini guide called Skirting the Issues, and it's all about men and women in sales. And you can find it at www.sellinginaskirt.com/special-offer. And it's really good. It's like an intro to selling in a skirt.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. And over and out.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Judy Hoberman is the host of Selling in a Skirt radio show and podcast and author of 2 best-selling books, Selling in a Skirt and Walking on the Glass Floor. Judy's mission is to help one woman each day based on the philosophy, women want to be treated equally, not identically. Connect with Judy at sellinginaskirt.com.
Have you protected your big ideas? Is your online business built on a strong legal and business foundation? To learn more about the legal protection you need for your online business and how to use intellectual property to leverage the growth and profitability of your business, check out our new mini-sode series, Built to Last. I'll be sharing what I've learned during my business and legal career and how you can use those lessons to build a lasting legacy for your own business. So join me for my solo flight on the Brand Aid Built to Last mini-sodes.
That's it for today's episode. Head on over to brandaidpodcast.com and subscribe to the show. When you subscribe, you'll instantly receive Cheryl's free special gift, Consumer Guide to Trademark Registration Services. This consumer guide will help ensure your most valuable business assets are entrusted to professionals. Make certain you're on the path to a business and brand built to last. Join our Brand Aid community on the Podopolo mobile app to win prizes, products, and cool free resources to help you grow your business. And also connect with Cheryl and your friends. Podopolo is free on the Apple and Google App Stores. And when you go to brandaidpodcast.com/win and post a review to iTunes, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a once-in-a-lifetime VIP Brand Aid opportunity to mastermind with Cheryl personally to grow and scale your business, or to select, secure, and sustain a valuable brand name for your business. That's Podopolo on the Apple and Google App Stores. Download it now.